and then drove him home. They said that he confessed to the murder in the statement. They even wrote the statement out on longhand paper. Because the day I went to see Spike the first time, he said, "Is this William's handwriting?" I said, "That's his signature at the bottom." I said, "But the rest of it ain't his handwriting." So they wrote what they wanted to write on the paper. Apparently the tape just disappeared. I don't know where it went. They don't know where it went. How does somebody confess to murder and you give them a ride home? Okay? They knew what really happened. They knew Friday night, they knew Saturday morning. But by Monday, he was getting like really strange. He wasn't eating, he wasn't taking his medicine, and they knew his blood pressure was too high. So on Tuesday morning, I believe it was Tuesday morning. It could have been Monday or Tuesday, but they said he got so bad that he was stabbing his food on the plate, like trying to work out his, emotional, yeah. So, they called the ambulance, I believe. The ambulance took him to Crozier, and a little while after that, the cops were at his door wanting to talk to him. And they said, he's at the hospital. I believe that was on Tuesday. When they went to the emergency room.
Who is they?
The cops. The cops went from your grandmother's house to the emergency room. They followed him to the hospital, basically. They didn't know when they came to the door that he wasn't there. And so when they said they took him to the hospital, your dad was, I believe he was undressed in a hospital gown, which meant his ass was hanging out. He had an IV. They were working on him. And the cops came, I don't know whether they came to talk to him or arrest him. I don't know what the story was. But they upset your dad. Whatever they said upset him, and he jumped up and ran through the emergency room, bare ass, blood squirting out his arm everywhere. And when they finally tackled him, he went to jail. They took him to Broad Meadows. So when I went out there, which I think was Thursday night, after I figured out how to get there and what to do and when the visiting hours were and stuff and what I needed to do to get in.
So who was the cops? Do you know them by name?
One of them is called Easton. He's a black detective in the Upper Chichester Police. And shortly after your dad's conviction, he got a promotion. The white man loves when the black man turns on his own.
Well, I have the news article, and it was saying that he confessed to murder while you said God made him do it.
God told him to do it.
That's what the cops were saying happened at the hospital.
Here's my point. He said that at the hospital. That's what they're saying.
That's what the news article was saying.
Well, they're saying he did that confession. Well, I was under the impression that he gave that your dad wasn't in his right mind in the hospital. He had taken his medicine. He had all these thoughts in his head that yes, he had an error in judgment, but he didn't commit no murder. He didn't kill her. It wasn't on purpose. He didn't want to burn he owned the property. Your aunt left it to him. He used it for storage. But he wasn't in his right mind in the hospital. And I remember that article. I don't have a copy of it, but I do remember it because Jessica's dad called me up and said, "You're lucky it wasn't you. That's your friend. You spend so much time with him. Well, lucky it didn't happen to you." He was just being nasty. I was at Rube's house one day and he threw me down the steps going out the door and I broke my foot. And
who did that?
Jessica's dad. And so I went up to Williams and I hid out there for a little bit, and he came knocking on the door. He said, "I'm coming to collect Karen." Your dad got in the doorway and he said, "You got to go through me first." And like anybody that hits women, he's a coward. He backed down and went away. Ugh. Your dad helped me so many times. I can't even tell you. I first met him. I hired him at KO's, the gas station. You probably don't remember where I Swing is now. There used to be a KO station. And I hired him. That's how we originally met. But he was hysterically funny. He was always happy, always trying to cheer people up. The only time I ever heard him not be in a good mood is when little William died.
My brother.
Yeah. He had bought some insurance to anyway. And he came here. And I was scared. And Butch said, he called me and said, "William's here." And I came down. I was all happy to see him and stuff. And I looked at Butch with it. So I being so happy. So when I calmed down, he told me, how he went on vacation with his family. His mother hadn't had it since Christmas. So I don't know. He never talked about it, but I don't know whether or not he blames her for William's death, because I'm sure if she didn't know that the restriction needs to be restored, she would have restored it. And it's really strange because the same thing. Aaron judgment was rule with definitely Aaron judgment was Carolyn Hunt. Yeah.
Did he know her?
He knew that day.
Did you know her?
No, I didn't know it. I was reading some testimony though. You know John Linder, right?
Mm-hmm.
John Linder never put the two and two together. But he said when he was a kid, he would, he would kill himself. He wouldn't do very much of it because he was not well. He had sometimes when he was a kid, they would have to go out and play. They didn't have to learn to get psychology and stuff. But when he was in court, the judge said, "Oh, was that her mother?" And he said her grandmother. So
who mother and what grandmother?
When John Linder was a little kid, back in our day, when you went outside with your friends, you did something. If somebody else told you to do something, you did it.
Right.
If they told you to stop doing it, you stopped doing it. And the first thing out of their mouth was outside your mother, and you knew you were going to get after them when you got home.
Okay.
But Carolyn's grandmother was that one. Playing outside. He knew her from that.
Carolyn's grandmother?
Yeah. When he realized that, because he heard her name, she read the paper too, but he never put two and two together and realized he knew her grandmother. So, by extension, he knew her when she was a little kid.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, not important. I got a whole box of stuff upstairs. But,
so,
because
get to what you're trying to tell me, because I'm trying to make sense of it. So I need you to take me to make sense of it.
well, the next thing that happened that I saw was when I went to see him, he had this stage, like a blaze in his eye. Like he looking around. It's funny that people had a video. He's doing like this for a long time.
No, that's not what I'm asking is, you were saying Linda. What, you didn't finish what you were trying to tell me about a mother and a grandmother and
Yeah. Johnny went and spoke to him. You didn't testify to him?
Johnny who?
Linder.
Okay.
John Linder. He was on video for about 4 years.
Right.
He Williams and Warren,
I'm trying to get to the law enforcement part because law wasn't enforced. We all know this, but you have to. Yeah, I think I this is a lot of people involved. So how is the one person?
Give you something in more detail. But
Yeah, I don't mean to sound pressurized,
no,
but
I get
this
it.
I feel like this is a conversation me and you we should have had a long time ago. I was
Yeah,
young, you know. I've lived life,
exactly.
and I need you to be real as you can be.
Okay.
You
Well,
know,
I'm
don't
gonna tell
hold
you.
no punches for
I'm gonna
me.
tell you now. This is as much as I can remember now, but I will think on it. I've been having trouble with my memory too,
I understand.
but I will think about it and get more details, and write it down for you. Um, they made it look like he did it on purpose because it was arson. They said arson. Now I have to look through the papers, but
I don't need you to need any more papers right now. All you need is right in your brain and in your heart and in your mind. We don't need I seen documents too. I see the lies. I read them. I see it.
they,
Anybody reading it can see it.
I know.
So we it's like past that part now.
And this,
I need to understand why they would want to do this to my dad. Why would they want to blame him for a murder? Not saying that a life wasn't taken and that is not, something very dramatic and hurtful. I'm not taking anything away from anybody's life, but
yeah,
an
I get
accident
it.
is an accident, and I understand that part. But who was Miss Carolyn to Easton? Because I've read the transcripts where the lawyer tried to catch him up in his words of what my dad said that night when the neighbor across the street was there too to witness it, and it was if you really read it, you can see the whole mix up of where my dad said Carolyn, but he knew exactly who Carolyn was. But then later retracts and said him and my dad never had a conversation
No,
when the witness. So what I'm
his
saying is,
his conversation wasn't with the husband; it was with the wife.
okay.
The wife was helping your dad. Your wife.
No, yeah, I know the wife. That's the
Oh,
neighbor. I'm talking about Easton.
oh,
Easton is saying that his testimony. I was reading his testimony.
oh. See, I don't
The
have that.
lawyer was asking him how did he know who was in there, because he kept saying, yeah, well, Carolyn was in the firing. Well, how did you know? It's like he was speaking on stuff before he knew it, then to say that he didn't know it. And that's what the transcripts I have clearly
I would
clearly
love to
state.
see them.
This is why I need to understand on your end, because you were an adult at that time. You were involved with my father. You know things that I don't know.
Yeah.
And we got to connect the dots, right? Because he Easton is getting away with murdering my dad now.
You know
That's
what?
what it's come to. You know what I mean? Like, and I get it. You don't have to shelter me if because you took me to see my father. You don't think how much I appreciate that. Like when I was just a little girl. Like what I'm saying is, I'm not a little girl anymore, and I really had to grow up without my father there, and it shouldn't have been like that.
See, I
So
wish I could have done more. Matter of fact, if you want to drive, we can go see him.
what more could you have done? It wasn't. It's not you. You gotta
Okay.
stop feeling guilty.
Here's where I feel like I failed him. I feel like I failed him because how does somebody confess to murder and you drive him home? You meet with him on Saturday morning and then you let him go home. Okay?
And you talking about the cops, right?
The confession that he gave on Friday night, because he went there and gave
A statement.
a tape recorded statement that night, which they say is lost, but they have it written down, and your dad signed the bottom of it. Um, I don't know what
I've
he.
seen this same stuff, and it don't look right. It looks like a complete different handwriting. I've seen it with my own eyes.
Yeah,
So
the cops wrote it and he signed it. But here's the thing. I can't remember what it said right now. But here's the thing. If he didn't confess until he was in the hospital, if that's I don't know when the confession was.
right, because it never happened. And you know what I've gathered, like you said, why would they drive him home after he confessed to? That's not what you do. If he told you he killed them, you would have imprisoned him at that moment.
Right.
Period. So it doesn't make sense.
If the confession happened on Tuesday, he wasn't in his right mind to confess to nothing.
Right.
He wasn't in his right mind. He's stabbing his fork on the plate like he's trying to.
He's having an episode.
Yeah, and he was off his.
But
meds.
he was in the hospital.
Exactly.
So it doesn't, either way, they
How
trying
do you
to
take somebody out of an emergency room and then claim they gave a logical confession.
It doesn't make sense. And that's the part that's so wrong.
I know. But here's another thing I learned over the years, and I never realized it before. But the prosecutor in the courtroom is the most powerful person in that room, not the judge.
Mm-hmm.
It's the prosecutor. Now, you were at the trial, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know how when they put that noise machine on and the judge and the two lawyers talked? That case had just settled with that cop shooting. The defendant was in on that conversation. I thought for sure that was going to go the other way.
Yeah.
I thought for sure.
They washing hands and covering up. And we know this. But it's time to shed light on this shit. Like, for us, we seeing it happen on the news around the world, but our world is here and it is happening here as well. And they just keep getting away with it because they put that fear in us. And I'm going through the same thing, but I ain't scared. I'm not going to keep allowing this to happen. You know what I mean? So I'm trying my best to do my part, on what I can do.
KRISSY,
that's why I'm joining. Did you feel? Oh, you didn't fill it out yet.
You know what? I'm going to need you to help me with this because I don't have glasses.
Okay, I'm gonna put the phone down there.